Hi. Hi. Another quirky startup name, I hear you say. Why can't these startups grow up? But in our defense, HawaDawa has a deeper meaning. It originates from the polluted urban streets of Egypt. Roughly translated, HawaDawa means air medicine in 7 global languages. Cairo. We're here in Berlin today, but never mind. Pollution knows few boundaries. Our CEO and co-founder, Karim, grew up in a house full of doctors in the city of Cairo, a city displaying all of the typical traits of an emerging economy when it comes to air quality and health. I'm Cassie Welling, COO of HawaDawa. I spent my youth breathing in country smells in rural England, but I'm here because of my background in environmental economics and governance. Combining AI, IoT technology, and satellite technology, we've built the most comprehensive digital platform for air quality management. Cities and companies are already using our data today to actually challenge the mainstream of decision-making. Air pollution accounts for 5 trillion of losses in economic output each year. 1 in 8 deaths globally can be attributed to the effects of long-term exposure to air pollution. Study after study highlights the links between air pollution and critical global diseases, from diabetes to depression. But there's a problem here, because there's a gap between the urgency to actually tackle the problem and the science-based insights that can be used to target investment to actually do so. The technology is largely there, but the question is how to take the IoT technologies, take the satellite conversion of data, take machine learning to identify the types of pollutant behaviors that affect and trigger certain types of diseases, and actually make this into a usable data set that's relevant enough to actually target and service some of these real-life use cases. And that's where HawaDawa comes in. We're building the digital twin for the health of our cities. We're fusing tropospheric satellite data from the most advanced multispectral imaging spectrometer in orbit. We're combining this with aerospace and optical data from Japanese and European satellites. And then we take this and we combine that with weather, with land use, and with all of the terrestrial data that we can get our hands on. Converting satellite-based air quality values into ground-based values is not trivial. Very few others in the space are actually doing this. But in order to convert and downscale satellite values and take this to granular street-level air quality data, actually helps us to improve the accuracy of our models for some of these pollutants by up to 80%. And it helps critically in predicting the data between our terrestrial IoT sensors on the ground, which, incidentally, we have built, calibrated, certified, and generated revenue from in just 2.5 years. Our data set is effectively being considered and recognized as a new global commodity, whether in ensuring assets from the risks and the effects of short-lived climate pollutants, to helping de-risk public investment in pollution control, or developing a new digital health app, which actually takes prescription and disease data and then combines it with spatially relevant local pollutant data. Elsewhere, our data can enable cities to actually design entirely new urban mobility systems based on our understanding of pollutant behavior, and by integrating our air quality forecasts and our traffic simulation into everyday smart traffic management systems. We're even exploring the attribution of NOx and sulfur dioxide pollution data into the shipping industry with a handful of the biggest carriers on the planet. Combined revenue of around $40 billion, it's very clear that if it's so interesting, the value of our analytics to date, to these big industry heavyweights, imagine what we can actually do now in real time with our near real-time measurements on the ground. And why is this so relevant? On January the 1st, 2020, the shipping industry faces the biggest emissions cuts regulations Dieselgate in Germany caused more than a ripple in the automotive industry. England's NHS emergency, and France being considered the first nation-state to actually be, by the EU, considered to be having the problems with nitrogen dioxide. It's a big problem. We believe we can capture already $800 million and target this across 6 core data areas. We have a data subscription model, and we're already, with a team of 20, looking for a global partner who has the ambition to actually take emissions data and air quality data and do something with it, be it creating a new industry air quality standard, be it developing a science-based app that actually helps reduce hospitalizations based on pollution. We want to make air quality data and emissions data as relevant to the financial industry as it is to asthmatics. Thank you.
Judges, what questions do we have?
Hi. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how you prioritize and find different types of customers that are interested in this data set.
Yes, so we have the relative luxury that we do have paying customers right now. So on the one hand, it's taken a while to get those, and cities are our typical customers that we tend to find and that we can actually build on our experience from. But in terms of our corporate partners, we've actually been quite lucky because it's starting to be a really championed cause in the majority of big corporate companies. So if we go to a big corporate company and say, we've got an additional data set that can actually really enhance your portfolio, it's becoming really, really interesting from them. And because we've already got traction with cities and with some other corporate partners, it's sort of escalating and rolling all the way. So it's really interesting for us.
I have a question around the data, the granularity level. Where do you get the data from the cities? And do you need to integrate with other IoT providers? Like, where's that granularity coming from on a local level?
Mm-hmm. So although we're hardware agnostic, we do also produce our own IoT sensors. So we can deploy these at scale based on the fact that we have a network of corporate partners. So we're not just going city by city. We're actually working with global scale partners. We've got one example, which is advertising hoardings. So we're installing our IoT sensors across their network without having to even speak with cities. So it's quite an interesting model that we're going forwards with. But also the benefit is that we're sort of covering the full value chain. So we've got our sensors on the ground, but we can integrate any other data set that we need to. And actually, that's where the magic takes place. Right. The hardware's there, but we don't have to use it.
So you're selling the hardware, and that's the first part of your revenue, and then you have a subscription model on top?
We're not selling the hardware at all, so it's just a pure data subscription. If a customer has their own hardware or if they have their own data, for example, a city generally does collect some kind of air quality data, we can integrate that instantly into our models and into our real-time dashboard. Mm-hmm. So we're not selling the hardware, we're just selling the data.
Do you suggest hardware for someone to buy if they want to, if a city wants to have a platform for itself?
Of course, we always suggest our own. We have done lots of tests with other competitive hardware, and of course, I'm going to say it, but it is actually the best low-cost sensor that you can find out there at the moment. So we can very much easily integrate with other hardware providers and suppliers if there are any, if they have a preferred supplier, but we would always recommend our own.
What kind of numbers can you share?
So we already have revenue. I think that's as much as I can say, 6-digit. And we are, I mean, we've got investment, for example. We've got just over $1 million in investment at the moment, and we're looking to raise a pre-Series A shortly.
So I was on stage just 10 minutes ago, funnily enough in the same seat, and one of the statements I made is, we need companies like what you're doing to solve humanity's greatest challenges. So it's amazing, first of all, that you're tackling this. We had this expression, sunlight is the best disinfectant. If you can see the data, then you can start to affect change. So in the abstract, I think, amazing. What I'm curious about, so my startup, prior to becoming a VC, we also did something similar in a different realm. And selling data is hard, because when people don't understand the value of that data, and it's abstract, or down the line, that's difficult. How do you, Yeah, have you thought of ways you can package it up in a way that is more comprehensible and more of a product as opposed to here's data for your city? And if so, what does that look like?
So we distinguish between cities and monitoring as a service, which is a relatively straightforward business model, and then looking at corporate partners and other, the sort of rest of the value chain. And we're in the process of packaging up our product portfolio. So we kind of split it out between this monitoring as a service, and then we go all the way up to a simple API access. So yes, we are packaging out, our data into different types of data products and portfolios that can be effectively sort of built up as a sort of checkbox, depending on the customer's need. And we're finalizing that at the moment. So in terms of detail, I can't give you a great deal, but that's where we're headed.
You also mentioned, consumer products in the mix there, which is a different muscle you have to develop. It's actually quite a different skill set. Is that a separate effort, or is that within the company? And how do you keep focus so you actually deliver a good product to a particular industry, just to start with at least?
So at the moment, we're not focused on B2C at all.
Okay.
We're actually working with, for example, Department of Health and other health providers, so the sort of bigger end of the spectrum than going B2B. We appreciate that, B2C, sorry, we appreciate that's a more tricky market, particularly when we have smokers and so on. It's not a mainstream topic yet for general consumers. So yeah, we're looking for larger providers. We're working with, for example, the Department of Health in Ireland on the app.
We've got 20 seconds left. My question is, what's your biggest ask? If we had a magic wand and could give you what you need the most, what is that? What's your toughest challenge that we can help you with?
So at the moment, we're looking for 2.5 million in investment, which is obviously a standard question. We're also looking for a partner that is willing to take on that risk and actually be the first mover in some of these industries. So we're talking about the shipping industry, of course. We're interested in finding a partner who is willing to take that first step and set that industry standard.
All right, give it up for HawaDawa.
Thanks.
Well done.
Let's bring out our